περάσουμε τώρα στο επόμενο μας θέμα, το οποίο μας έρχεται από το κεντρικό Λονδίνο και συγκεκριμένα από το Hellenic Centre. Η διευθύντρια του Ελληνικού Κέντρου του Λονδίνου, κυρία Αγάθα Καλησπέρα, και το Ελληνικό Κέντρο την Παρασκευή 11 Ιουνίου διοργάνωσαν μια διαδικτυακή διάλεξη με κύρια ομιλήτρια τη Δρ Μαρία Γεωργοπούλου. Θέμα της διάλεξης ήταν «The Land of Great, the Home of the Brave», η γη των Μεγάλων, το σπίτι των Γενναίων. Την εκδήλωση άνοιξε η διευθύντρια του Ελληνικού Κέντρου, κυρία Αγάθα Καλησπέρα. Ακολούθησε σύντομη παρουσίαση του θέματος από την ομιλήτρια Δρ Αναστασία Λεμός, που είναι Visiting Research Fellow στο King's College Λονδίνου. Και στη συνέχεια ακολουθεί ένα απόσπασμα από την παρουσίαση της Δρ Μαρίας Γεωργοπούλου, η οποία είναι διευθύντρια στη Γεννάδειο Βιβλιοθήκη της Αμερικανικής Σχολής Κλασικών Σπουδών στην Αθήνα. Η παρουσίαση της κυρίας Γεωργοπούλου επικεντρώνεται σε δύο θεατρικά έργα που γράφτηκαν από Αμερικάνους Συγγραφείς και παρουσιάστηκαν στη Νέα Υόρκη και το Λονδίνο το 1822. Στο βίντεο που ακολουθεί θα σας παρουσιάσουμε το καλωσόρισμα της κυρίας Αγάθα Καλησπέρα, τη σύντομη παρουσίαση της Δρ Αναστασίας Λεμός και ένα απόσπασμα από την παρουσίαση της Δρ Μαρίας Γεωργοπούλου. Όλη η παρουσίαση είναι στην αγγλική γλώσσα.
Good evening. I am Αγάθα Καλησπέρα, the director of the Hellenic Centre in London, and I welcome you very warmly to this evening's webinar. And thank you for joining us. This is the first of our commemorative lecture series for 1821, the Greek War of Independence Revisited. Because of COVID restrictions, both this week's and next week's lectures will be online. But we hope that in the autumn, the later lectures in this series will take place in our building, and we look forward to welcoming you here. Information about all our cultural events are on our website. This evening's speaker is Dr. Maria Gεωργοπούλου, the director of the Γεννάδειο Library of the American School of Classical Studies in Athens. Dr. Anastασία Λεμός, the member of our executive board who has organized this commemorative lecture series, will now introduce our speaker. Natasha.
Thank you, Agasi. A warm welcome from me too. I am delighted that the series opens with a very distinguished speaker who is also a personal friend and who has been extremely helpful in the preparation of our other commemorative event, the exhibition of the Makrigiannis lithographs, which will hopefully open on the 5th of October. As Agathi mentioned, Dr. Gεωργοπούλου, Maria, occupies the highly prestigious position of the director of the Gennadio Library of the American School of Classical Studies in Athens. Her academic specialism is art history, particularly of the medieval Mediterranean. She is the author of a book with the title Venice's Mediterranean Colonies, Architecture and Urbanism, which was published by Cambridge University Press in 2001. Maria obtained her doctorate from the University of California, Los Angeles, and subsequently taught at Yale, where she founded the program for the Hellenic Studies, which was prior to her post as the director of the Gennadio. In her post as the director of the Gennadio, among her other activities, she has organized several exhibitions and major academic conferences. Let me mention one very interesting publication edited by Maria, which was the result of one of these conferences. It's Ottoman Athens, Topography, Archaeology and History, which was published in 2019. Before Maria starts her talk, let me say a few words about the procedures of this evening's event. Maria is going to speak for about 45 minutes, and there will be then about 15 minutes for questions. You can post questions during the talk and after its end in the Q&A box, which you will find at the bottom of your screen. I will read them out to Maria after the end of her talk, and there may be not much time to read them out all, but you are welcome to send an email so that, or if you have more questions, to send them to us by email, and then I will forward them to Maria. Let me now ask Maria to speak on the land of the great, the home of the brave. Maria, over to you.
Thank you very much, Agathi. Thank you very much, Natasha, for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to be with you. It would have been a much bigger honor, of course, and a much bigger pleasure to be live with you at the Centre in London. But at least we can rejoice on the new possibilities that technology offers us during these difficult times. My presentation today is intimately connected with the collections and the programs of the Γεννάδειο Library, where I have been the director since 2004. The institution, the Γεννάδειο, is very rich on materials about the Greek War of Independence. And in fact, my talk today, my presentation stems from research that I have conducted for an exhibition which is currently on view at the Γεννάδειο Library and will be on view until mid-December. So I hope that some of you will have the chance to come and see it. It is an exhibition dedicated on the relationships between Greek and the United States during the century of the revolutions. And in fact, it's an exhibition entitled The Free and the Brave, American Philhellenes and the Glorious Struggle of the Greeks, 1776 to 1866. So let me begin by trying to switch my slides. Hold on just for a second. Okay, there we go. Let me start with this image that will lead us, it will be an introduction to our lecture. My lecture, of course, has to do with the idea and the wave of Philhellenism and its expression in theater in the very early years of the Greek Revolution in 1821 and 1822. And what you have on the screen on the left is an image that you will soon be able to admire at the Hellenic Centre in October at the exhibition. It is one of the images, one of the watercolors that Dimitrios Zographos, a painter, made for Makrigiannis, for General Makrigiannis, from between 1836 and 1839. These 24 watercolors were mainly reference to battles during the Greek War of Independence from 1821 to 1828. But this image, the last one, is an image where we have Greece, or rather Hellas, as she's called, a personification of Greece, who in gratitude writes upon the tablet of immortality the names of the Philhellenes who fought for her freedom. So it is an image that I'm using here to usher us into thinking about Philhellenism and into allowing me to enter my topic with a very brief, details, about 2 minutes, about Philhellenism, which I assume it's a movement that you're all more or less familiar with. So Philhellenism is an expression of love for Hellenism and the Hellenes that fueled enthusiasm in the hearts of Americans, as I deal with in my exhibition, and Europeans for supporting the Greek Revolution. And this was so for three main reasons. First of all, that Greece was perceived as the birthplace of democracy. So the cultural, the admiration of the cultural grandeur of antiquity was translated into helping the successors of the Greeks to regain their position among the civilized nations of the world. Secondly, there was an emphasis on the cruelty of the Muslim Ottomans vis-à-vis their Christian Greek subjects, which encouraged the mental association and equation of the Greek struggle as a fight between Islam and Christianity. And finally, the movement of Philhellenism and the Greek War of Independence also coincided with events in Europe that had to do with the quest of freedom and different kinds of revolutions on the part of particular social and political groups in Restoration Europe. As a result, and this is what is, I think, very interesting and important, the Greek Revolution acquired an epic dimension. People of all classes, not only erudites or people who knew the classics, were moved by the Greek War of Independence and were eager to receive news about this momentum event in the press through personal narratives of volunteers, pamphlets, and the like, while committees were established in many major cities that were involved in fundraising. And this is the very august Park Theater in New York, which had been renovated just before 1820, and which in fact gave our scenographer, our collaborator in the exhibition, the armature and to create this very imaginative setting for the finale. And I hope you can see here, the background is the city of Athens. You can't see it very well. This is the elephant, and these are the revolutionaries with the banners. So allow me to conclude by some questions about the impact that such melodramas and plays had. First of all, we realize that the one play was produced just once in New York, and yet still there were 1,000 people, at least 1,000 people who watched the play. Payne's Ali Pasha, or Signet Ring, opened in Covent Garden on October 10, 1822, and on October 22nd. And apparently it had enough success that it was produced in New York in May of 1823. It's again hard to know the impact. I just wanted to offer as a point of comparison that Payne's most successful play, Brutus, played in London for 3 months in 1818, 1819. What is important, I think, is to understand and evaluate how the plays of the American playwrights manipulate Ali Pasha's story in order to identify themes that would fit more with their audience. It is obvious that Noah's play, as it was produced in America, was produced in such a faraway place that probably he could take many more liberties with historical events. Obviously the extravaganza of the finale was more important than the details of the play. So the less professional and multifaceted Noah creates a melodrama that is much further away from the original setting and creates something that I already referred to as a Hollywood production which sort of tries to place the Greek Revolution within the context of revolutions in the Americas. The context, the story of Ali Pasha offers a great excuse to put on stage people, Muslims with their yatagans, to show people killing one another, and to really emphasize this revolutionary spirit. In contrast, the more professional Pain creates a melodrama that is more conventional, more European, if you will, and closer to the events. And of course, something that we do need to keep in mind, and something that David Russell points out, is that Ali Pasha must have been and was a very fearful person within the context of the Greek War of Independence, but now he was dead, so of course, the audience could enjoy the play. So the two plays, the two melodramas, seem to have had a strong emotional effect on the viewer by scaring the viewer and moving them, and finally pleasing the audience by offering some kind of redemption of the heroine. And as an anti-hero, the historical character of Ali Pasha worked implicitly for the Orient, the Muslims, and the struggle of 1821, well before the Philhellenic movement takes roots in Europe and the United States. Thank you very much.
Στο σημείο αυτό θα θέλαμε να ευχαριστήσουμε την κυρία Αγάθα Καλησπέρα και το Ελληνικό Κέντρο Λονδίνου για την παραχώρηση του οπτικοακουστικού υλικού και τη συνεργασία τους με το Hellenic TV, ώστε να μπορούμε και εμείς να παρουσιάζουμε τις ενδιαφέρουσες εκδηλώσεις του Ελληνικού Κέντρου στο Λονδίνο.